complex web of relationships rules all life on Earth. All species are interconnected. None can survive in isolation. While some relationships are one-sided, others are mutually beneficial. From loose associations to tight-knit partnerships. Everything has a place in nature's great scheme. The summer sun is baking the savannas of Africa. It's hot and dusty, and by mid-afternoon, the mercury has pushed over 100 degrees. Seeking relief from the thermal onslaught, this white rhino is heading for his local watering hole. Wallowing in the cool mud comforts the overheated male. He's not only hot, but also bothered by an infestation of blood-sucking ticks. The mud bath helps all round. The clay-like covering forms a hard crust when baked in the sunshine, allowing the rhino to rub himself down, knocking off the ticks. But this mud bath has another unexpected benefit. A group of very unusual beauticians is hard at work. They're African helmeted turtles. Ever the opportunists, today they're nipping ticks from the cracks and crevices of the giant's wrinkled old hide. Two animals mutually benefiting each other may seem unusual. But all across the continent, there are animals cooperating in a complex web of life. On the grassy savannas surrounding the waterhole, another mutually beneficial association is common. Cattle egrets are foraging alongside a herd of impala. They're after the bugs disturbed in the grass by the churning hooves. It's a clever strategy. Egrets following large grazers like this Cape buffalo catch up to 40% more prey than lone foragers. The benefits to the grazers, however, aren't as clear, although it's thought that the birds may operate as an early warning system when predators are near. Such teamwork is an integral part of life across Africa. From the great herds of the grassy savannas to the freshwater lakes, where flocks of birds numbering into the thousands congregate to reap the bountiful food rewards. Along its coastline, fish schools patrol the depths. While the surface boils with giant pods of common dolphins. These aggregations of individuals have multiple benefits. The more eyes looking out for predators, the better. And finding food in a group is often easier than going it alone. This is particularly true when different species work together. One of the best examples of loosely cooperating individuals of different species takes place on the open grasslands of East Africa. Here, great herds of wildebeest and zebra congregate on the golden plains to feast on the bountiful grass. While this looks like a random gathering, there is actually a specific organization in the way the two species operate. Both are grazers. But even though they live side by side, they target slightly different parts of the grass they eat. Zebras move through first, munching the tallest grasses. Their digestive system is capable of breaking down a variety of food, including old, dry, low-quality grass. In their wake come blue wildebeest, which are better adapted to eating shorter, more nutritious shoots. This relationship allows the two grazers to coexist. Complex interactions between species are not limited to animals, and some of the best examples occur in the lush mountain forests of Africa. From the treetops to the forest floor, light governs the fortunes of everything that lives here. The taller you are, the more you have. Trees invest in giant trunks to support a wide canopy high above the ground, ensuring they get the lion's share of sunshine. But one group has evolved a more cost-effective way to rise above the masses. These are epiphytes, otherwise known as air plants. They're a group of plants that all grow in the same way. Instead of using their own energy to reach the sunlight, they hitch a ride on strong, towering trees. Or orchids are probably the best-known epiphytes. Their specially adapted roots anchor the plants to the trunk of their host. And as the tree grows, the air plant gets closer to the sun. But the roots are only for support. The plants are completely harmless, absorbing all the nutrients and water they need from the air or falling leaf litter trapped by their stems and roots on the trunk. Recent studies suggest that they actually confer some benefits to the trees on which they grow. In the forest, water is critical, and trees that are able to get more of it, or conserve the amount they have the best, grow better. It's thought that epiphytes increase the canopy density, creating a significantly cooler and moister microclimate. So the trees lose less water through their leaves. It seems that epiphytes may not simply be taking their unwitting hosts for a free ride after all. On the high Simien Mountains of Ethiopia, another epiphyte species has a more complicated relationship. Up here in the pure mountain air, fog and rain are common. Bizarre creatures and mystical trees dot the landscape. Across the grassy slopes, giant troops of geladas graze the sweet green grass. Surrounded by trees, hung with lichen or old man's beard, like characters out of the Lord of the Rings. The lichen is a sign of the environment's good health. At the faintest whiff of pollution, it dies off. While lichen also uses trees to reach into the light, the real magic of this species lies in another, much closer relationship. Lichens are actually not one single species, but two, an algae and a fungus. The lives of these are so closely woven that they now appear as one. Fungi can't make their own food through photosynthesis. So they've evolved in partnership with a unicellular species of green algae. The algae photosynthesize, turning sunlight into sugars, which feed the fungi, while the fungus offers support and protection to the microscopic partner nestled in its tissues. This tight-knit relationship is critical to both species, and they've married their fortunes together for life. If one dies, so does the other. A close, mutually beneficial relationship such as this is known as mutualism. Mutualism is so successful, it's created some of the most incredible biological structures on Earth. These occur under the sea, in the warm tropical waters of the Indian Ocean. colourful reefs abound in its clear blue waters. These are some of the most diverse habitats on Earth. Fish life is prolific. All life on these reefs relies on the unbreakable relationship between coral polyps and microscopic algae living inside their tissues. To the naked eye, coral looks like a single animal. But, like the lichen, it's actually two different organisms. During photosynthesis, the algae produces sugars and lipids. And the polyp feeds on these, using this free food to build the impressive calcium carbonate skeletons that are the very foundation of coral reefs. As they've strived for the essential sunlight they need, coral species have diversified into a number of different forms. Pillars, plates, staghorns and brains, all governed by the desire for light. Every conceivable habitat is used on the busy reefs. Even some that would ordinarily be considered extremely hazardous. The venom-laden tentacles of an anemone are suicide for most fish. A 2-bar clownfish is surrounded. Remarkably, he's safe. An impervious blanket of mucus covering the clownfish protects them from being stung. But they're no freeloaders and will defend the anemones against predators including nudibranchs, sea stars, and other fish. They also help pick parasites from the surface of their host. And on calm nights, their hustle and bustle keeps water moving through the anemones, ensuring there's plenty of oxygen. Other sea anemones have struck a different sort of partnership. They've hitched a ride on the shell of a hermit crab. This provides meals for the anemones, which catch bits of food that escape the crab's claws. In return, the crab uses the anemone's stinging tentacles to ward off predators. So it's win-win. There's another win-win relationship in the heathlands of southern Africa. Across this floral wonderland, a battle for procreation is part of everyday life. Many plant species here throw their spawn to the wind, using wind power to pollinate. This is simple, but can be unreliable, so some species prefer not to leave it up to chance. They invest their energy in creating sweet nectar and brightly colored flowers to attract pollinators such as sunbirds or sugarbirds. One such group of flowers are proteas. Their colorful flowers are like beacons, luring sunbirds with the promise of nectar. As the birds feed, they become dusted with pollen, which they carry from flower to flower as they seek out more nectar. In turn, the sugary nectar helps fuel the high metabolism of the birds as they flit from bush to bush. Plants have been particularly good at forging these kinds of relationships. On the west coast of southern Africa, every spring brings an explosion of life. In a blush of color, the plants open their flowers in order to attract pollinators. This is their breeding season. Flowers of all colors and shapes proliferate. There's lots of competition for suitable pollinators. To increase their odds in the race, the Medestaat plant has invested in super long flowers to lure a very special pollinator. It's a long-tongued or tangle-veined fly. His proboscis measures 2 inches or more. This has co-evolved over time alongside the flowers. As one got longer, so too did the other, eventually resulting in an exclusive partnership between the flower and the fly. But this is not without its risks. All bets are on one horse in the race to reproduce. So the plants have evolved a clever system to ensure success. Each flower offers the fly only a small sip of nectar. To get it, he must insert his proboscis up to the hilt. And as he does so, he's rubbed with pollen. But with only a small amount of nectar in each flower, the fly must move from plant to plant in order to get all that he needs. He'll visit hundreds of different flowers in a day, distributing pollen as he goes. This intricate relationship is mutually beneficial to both species. The flower guarantees the services of a dedicated pollinator, while the fly need not share his precious nectar with any other insect species in the area. But not all close relationships involving two species are mutually beneficial. In many cases, one species takes things one step too far, negatively affecting their hapless victim in the process. This is the dark world of parasitism. A herd of African buffalo is resting through the heat of the day. Like the rhino, they're suffering from infestations of parasites. Nature's selfish freeloaders. Ticks are arguably the most iconic parasites in the world, familiar to any household pet owner. These depend on their ability to suck the blood of others. After gorging herself on blood, this African blue tick has mated and fallen from her host into the grass below. For her, life is practically over. Her last task before shriveling away is laying around 2,000 eggs, each the size of a needlehead. It's now up to the next generation. Instinct drives the nymphs up into the long grass. Here they'll wait for passing mammals. It's a tenuous existence, and the wait is long and often futile. Most will fail to find a passing animal within a few months and die. Nymphs can detect increasing levels of carbon dioxide, which indicate the presence of a nearby host. If the animal approaches close enough, the youngsters swarm aboard, like pirates raiding a passing treasure galleon. Ticks are arachnid invertebrates, distantly related to spiders. Their specialized mouth parts enable them to pierce thick hide and suck blood from a range of animal hosts. More than 1,000 ticks can congregate on a single individual. Once aboard, however, blue ticks only latch onto one animal for their entire life. They'll pass through every stage of development while attached, and once the females have mated, they swell up with eggs and drop off their host, resetting the process once more. Parasitism is not limited to the animal kingdom. Many plants have evolved to take a similar advantage of defenseless hosts. Vine-like lianas are one such species that thrives in the forests of Africa. Like epiphytes, they too have hitched a ride on trees into the sunlight high up in the canopy above. Unlike the air plants, however, lianas are rooted in the soil. And the presence of lianas comes at a cost to their host. Trees hung with lianas grow more slowly. The vines also allow small herbivores, such as this millipede, to move from tree to tree as they feed up in the canopy. While this benefits hungry herbivores, it's bad news for the host. Lianas have been shown to increase tree mortality and reduce the host's seeds and fruits. Out of the forest, on the heathland-covered slopes, another parasite invades a host. But unlike many of the species inside the forest, it's not hitching a ride. This tangle of bright green stems is a mistletoe. But there's no romantic Christmas tradition in this relationship. It's stealing the very lifeblood from its host. The mistletoe's roots penetrate the host's stem, taking food and water. Where the roots penetrate the bark, a thick callus forms as the host plant attempts to fight back. But to no avail. The parasitic plant uses its stolen bounty to produce sweet fruits, which are sought after by birds. These then carry the seeds to other plants before depositing them in their droppings on the next host. But the mistletoe can't take too much, or they'll kill their victim. Most successful parasites steal just the right amount, allowing their host to survive. Few kill, for in most cases, they're completely dependent on their hosts. If the host dies, so do they. The matapalo, or tree killer, is a notable exception, otherwise known as the strangler fig. As its name suggests, its life is born from the death of another. This parasite starts out in the canopy. Birds and other fruit eaters deposit fig seeds where they germinate in the uppermost leaves of the host. These harmless origins soon take a dark turn. Over the years, as the fig grows, clinging to the host tree for support, its roots slowly creep down the trunk on their way to the earth to take root. Once the roots embed in the soil, the game's soon over for the host. With a firm base, the strangler fig takes over. It begins developing a strong trunk of its own, smothering its original crutch. As it grows in strength, it also sucks up most of the nutrients and water meant for the host tree, eventually strangling the tree that gave it life. Most strangler figs have hollow cores. Dark and beautiful, they're all that remains of their smothered host. Not all deadly parasites are forest giants. And one of the world's most notorious thrives along the coastline of southern Africa. But it can't be seen. This is Boulders Beach, 18 miles south of Cape Town. One of only 3 mainland breeding colonies of African penguins. This population is growing, but the species as a whole is on the brink of extinction. While investigating their decline, scientists made a surprising discovery. the penguins were suffering from a microscopic parasite in their blood that is a form of malaria. This is closely related to the illness that affects humans. And it's also spread by mosquitoes. Once infected, the penguins, like humans, experience depression, vomiting, and have difficulty breathing. Death often follows. At a seabird rehabilitation facility, these orphan chicks have been rescued from the colony. Their parents were struck down by malaria. The center raises these youngsters, preparing them to be released into the wild. Microscopic parasites such as malaria cause havoc around the world. Millions are spent each year treating victims, including penguins. Having survived their foster home, these penguins are able to return to the wild. As they waddle free, their future looks good. Even if some of the locals are anything but welcoming. Within minutes, the released birds have mingled into the crowds, swimming free once more in the oceans of southern Africa. Parasites, by definition, benefit at the expense of their hosts. But sometimes they aren't the only ones that get an advantage. One microscopic parasite has had a surprisingly positive impact across the tropical savannas of Africa. It's carried by tsetse flies. Tsetses are bloodsuckers, but in their saliva they carry deadly trypanosoma parasites, which cause sleeping sickness. These tiny worm-like flukes swim through the blood, causing illness. Sleeping sickness kills off intruders not co-evolved to survive the rigors of tropical Africa. Humans, horses, and cattle are all at risk. An area about the size of the US, spanning the equator, is affected. But this threat has been a bonus for natural ecosystems. Humans had to avoid tsetse-infected areas throughout history. This left large tracts of Africa relatively wild and untouched. And many of these regions became the original African national parks and reserves because the land couldn't be used for cattle farming. Without these parasites, the relentless destruction of the continent brought on by farming would have continued unabated. Now researchers monitor the spread of the illness carefully and continuously check herds in the surrounding areas for infections. Although there are treatments and strict control measures to reduce tsetse flies across Africa, the benefits of this parasite to conservation will be felt for many generations to come. While some parasites are beneficial and even necessary, for most animals, bloodthirsty ticks are simply unwanted irritants. All mammals are affected. Even the tallest don't rise above the swarms. Luckily, help is at hand. Red-billed oxpeckers target ticks on large mammals by scissoring through their fur with their beaks. The birds get a meal, and the giraffes get rid of some pests. But even this relationship is not as clear-cut as it seems. For many years, it was thought that oxpeckers only benefited large mammals by removing ticks. But new research has challenged this. Oxpeckers also peck at sores and lesions on their host's skin. Now it's thought that they may actually be after the blood inside engorged ticks rather than the ticks themselves. And if bloody cuts and grazes are available, the birds happily feed on these as well. The more the oxpecker jabs at the bloody wound, the slower it heals, and the risks of infection increase. This macabre feeding habit has earned them the nickname vampire birds, and makes the birds parasites. In nature's never-ending web of relationships, the helper can become the harmer in the blink of an eye. Lurking in the forests is another example of the duplicitous nature of some organisms. Bracket fungi are hugely beneficial to natural systems. They feed on dead and decaying trees, recycling valuable nutrients back into the environment. Fungi form their own biological kingdom, with more species than vertebrates and plants combined. Although they look like plants, fungi can't photosynthesize, so they must form partnerships with other organisms, such as in the lichens, or they must feed on other organic material. Some species attack large living trees, sucking valuable nutrients from the gentle forest giants. Bracket fungi species such as these are seldom lethal, and the trees tolerate the unwanted adornments, tapping into their trunks way below the canopy. Another species of parasitic fungi has, however, been pressed into service by conservationists in South Africa. As humans moved around the planet, they intentionally and unwittingly introduced new species to the places they visited. Sometimes with disastrous consequences. Some plant species take to their new homes too well and rapidly expand into a nuisance. These are called invaders. One such species is threatening large tracts of the endangered fynbos heathlands of southern Africa. Black wattle, a type of acacia, was introduced into South Africa because its bark was used for tanning leather. Now, huge areas of the region are covered by these invasive trees, crowding out native species. To help combat the invasion, researchers turned to a natural parasite of the trees in their home country, Australia. A rust-colored tumor-like growth or fungal gall. After establishing there was no risk to any indigenous species, conservationists began spraying dense acacia stands with the parasite. The galls don't kill their hosts, but they do dramatically affect growth and seed set, helping slow the spread of this vicious invader. The galls reduce the tree densities of infected sites by 80%. Parasites attack the underbelly of all environments, causing harm to their hosts. But in the right hands, even the worst can be used for good. Every creature faces life as an individual, but rarely alone. All species on the planet are deeply connected in a delicate web of interactions. While some are clearly understood, others are not, reinforcing the need to think of our world not as a collection of isolated individuals, but as a large, magical, mysterious whole. Far more complex than the simple sum of its parts. In Africa, two aquatic powerhouses exist. One a massive plant-eating mammal, the other a deadly carnivorous reptile. Neighbors whose lives are worlds apart. But in a remote lake in South Africa, both face unforgiving challenges. From a dry season that won't break to battles of supremacy between superpowers and little dragons that seek survival against the odds. These are the struggles that define life for the crocs and hippos of Ndumo. The Kwa-Zulu Natal region of South Africa holds pockets of languid estuarine waterways and vibrant wetlands. Perfect hippo and croc country. These two species have coexisted here for thousands of years, evolving in different ways to a life aquatic. In the northeast corner of Kwa-Zulu Natal, the Ndumo Reserve is one of the few places in South Africa where these iconic animals still roam free. Yet in Ndumo, paradise has turned ugly. A cruel drought grips the land. It's a place that should get 1,000 millimeters of rain a year. But no rain has fallen here for 18 months. The once brimming lake has all but dried up, while the usually lush landscape is left cracked and thirsty. Even fish lie dying in the ever-shrinking shallows. The lake used to be home to several families of hippo, but as the water disappeared, so did they, leaving their longtime neighbors to rule the roost. Nile crocodiles are hardy survivors and can make do with what little water is left. The robust reptiles can go for months without eating, conserving energy by staying inactive between meals. But the drought isn't bad news for all those that live here. Many of Ndumo's water birds are seeing an unexpected upside to the shrunken lake. Less water makes it easier for locals like the white heron to spear fish trapped in small pools. For the long-legged flamingos, their diet of shrimp is also simpler to find in the muddy shallows. Opportunists like this young fish eagle now come across big prizes in the form of dead fish. But this is too good a meal to be uncontested. The usurper is older, as evidenced by his almost white neck and face, and thus more dominant. He's just one of a multitude of birds that call Ndumo home. Indeed, this is a place renowned for its incredible diversity of bird life. More than 430 species live here. For the crocodiles, all this feathered flesh is technically edible. They could easily snap up the unsuspecting waders. but they prefer catfish. Easy for the agile crocs to catch in what little water is left. The rugged reptiles will only leave this area if the water dries up completely. The last time this happened, they were rumored to have walked for almost 90 kilometers to the swamps of Mozambique. A mammoth waddle for the short-legged creatures. Luckily, they don't have to go that far this time. Although the main body of the lake has dried up, there are still a few places left with enough water for the crocs. One such area is a protected inlet at the far end of Ndumo. Here, due to the drought, the water is too salty for the hippos. But the crocs can tolerate it because they have glands that excrete excess salt from their bodies. With most of Ndumo's crocs crowded into the limited space on land, it's now possible to see some truly enormous individuals. The biggest crocs here are around 3.5 meters in length. Some weighing as much as 500 kilograms. They're impressive specimens, but there are legends of much bigger crocs. Sightings of 7-meter-long giants have been reported. But these are unsubstantiated in scientific literature, and it's estimated that fewer than 2% of wild crocs in southern Africa exceed 3 meters in length. Dinosaur-like size is not beyond the realm of possibility, though, because crocs are part of an ancient group called Archosaura, which dates back more than 200 million years. In crocodile society, the males are bigger. But otherwise, the sexes are virtually indistinguishable. The bigger the croc, the more dominant, meaning the largest males get the best sunbathing spots. But it's not for leisure that they lie out in the mornings. Being cold-blooded, the crocs need to use the sun's heat to raise their body temperature after a cool night. While basking, the crocs sometimes open their mouths in extended gapes. The most common explanation for this behavior is that it's done to release heat and aid in thermoregulation. But because crocs have been recorded assuming open-mouthed poses in cold weather too, scientists are still baffled. It is, however, an excellent way to show off one's teeth. It's estimated that a croc of 4 meters in length may have as many as 45 sets of teeth in its lifetime. The teeth of the crocodile are its livelihood, without which they wouldn't survive. They're adapted to puncture the skin of large animals. while powerful jaws snap down with the force of up to 3,700 pounds per square inch, making it almost impossible for prey to escape. Crocs' eyes, nostrils and ears sit high on their head, protruding inconspicuously from the water when the rest of the animal is submerged. This is called minimal exposure and disguises them while waiting for unsuspecting prey to come and drink. The ambush experts can lie silent and still like this for hours on end when hunting, and they'll eat almost anything they can overpower. For protection, the head is shielded by fused skull plates, while the rest of the skin on the back is covered with thick scales. This coat of armor is complemented by a powerful tail and strong clawed legs. Completing the perfect design for an aquatic apex predator. In Africa, around 300 crocodile attacks are recorded every year, although many more incidents may go unreported. Crocs are one of the few animals that will hunt humans for food. They may also attack to defend their territory or protect their young. Crocodiles are not simply voracious hunters, however. Like all animals, they live through the balancing of seasonal rhythms and their physiological needs. In winter, adults won't eat much and settle into a state of reduced activity called estivation. The approaching cold months will be challenging for Ndumo's newest crocodilian arrivals. These baby crocs hatched only a week ago from a clutch of eggs laid in a hole on the banks of the lake. Their mother did her best to stay close to the nest over the course of the 90-day incubation period. Because nest raiders like the monitor lizard lurk along the lake's shore. But she couldn't be there all the time. Of her 50 eggs, fewer than half survived. Such high levels of egg predation are common for crocodiles. These are the last survivors of her clutch. When they hatched, the mother carried them from the nest to the water's edge, where they now live in what is much like the local crocodile kindergarten. It's a small cove protected by overhanging trees, making it safe from the many predators like eagles and pelicans who have young of their own in the branches above. Shelter from predators is vital for the young crocs because their mother is nowhere to be seen. Once her clutch hatched, she left to hunt after weeks of fasting, leaving the little dragons to fend for themselves until they are old enough to disperse and look for new territories. Luckily, they're already well equipped to kill. At only 30 centimeters long, they're perfect miniature replicas of their parents. Fully developed and lethal. To flies. It's a humble meal for hunters who may one day be big enough to kill huge animals like rhino and young elephant. But before the crocs can assume their position at the apex of the food chain, they must avoid being eaten themselves. On average, only 1% of the clutch will live to maturity. This clutch is no exception. With the rest of their siblings already gone, the last 7 do their best to stay concealed in the sanctuary of their hideout. Inland from the baby Croc's Cove, the effects of the drought are starkly visible. Areas that were once green and covered in grass lie fallow, now little more than swathes of baked and bare earth. Even hardy thorn trees, normally well suited to life with limited moisture, are brittle and parched. It's a picture of hardship, a once lush ecosystem brought to its knees by the merciless drought. Yet change is in the air at Ndumo. Clouds swirl and dance in the sky for the first time in months. And signs of life trickle back into the lake bed. The first hint of inland rains. At last the storm arrives. Thunder claps, heralding a changing of the season. Drop by drop, clouds start to unload their precious cargo onto the parched land. The long-awaited rain is a gentle, quenching relief after many months of gasping heat. Over the coming weeks, water inundates the landscape. Engulfing even the bases of ancient fig trees. Tributaries that run out of the lake are once more turbulent and full. The waters bring life to many, but for others, they bring chaos. As they surge downstream in a torrent, they dislodge the baby crocs from their sanctuary. Forcing the tiny reptiles out of the security of their sheltered infancy before they're ready. Thrust suddenly into an uncertain future, some survive, others don't. It's the unfortunate truth of nature's law. Only the strongest survive. For all the residents of Ndumo, the renewed flow of water returns their home to its former magnificence. Making it suitable once again for those that left during the drought. The hippos have come home. Habitat degradation has left only 5,000 hippos in all of South Africa. But Ndumo is a safe haven, provided there is annual rain. The hippo's return is welcomed by some of Ndumo's other residents too, like this hitchhiking heron. The hippos quickly resume their routine, which consists mainly of wallowing away the daylight hours. This pod contains 16 hippos, but groups can get as big as 150 individuals when conditions allow. Hippos are known as a contact species because they spend a lot of time on top of one another. It's a pleasure to have someone to rest your head on when you're relaxing in the water. The odd thing about hippos is that they don't actually swim. They walk along the bottom of the lake. This means they favor places where it's just deep enough to keep their bodies underwater, but shallow enough to keep their heads above the surface. There is another reason they like to stay up to their eyeballs in water. They have a thin epidermis, or outer layer of skin, which means they lose water quickly when exposed to the African sun, putting them at risk of dehydration and sunburn. For this reason, shade is a valuable asset. It's a life submerged for a hippo. Not a very stressful existence. But there are some who have aspirations beyond a midday nap. Up until now, the younger bull on the right has been submissive to the pod's dominant male. But today, he fancies his chances against the number one. First, they size each other up, checking who has the bigger mouth. Larger jaws mean a more powerful bite, and hence more chance of winning authority over the pod's females. Battles for hierarchy are potentially fatal. Long canines and stabbing incisors exist solely for fighting. A duel like this can go on for hours. Low-hanging branches get in the way of the fight. A natural barrier that keeps the sharp tusks at bay. And ultimately diffuses the situation. As the sun sets, it signals the end of the first bout. There will be no fighting tonight, as the focus turns to refueling. Hippos feed almost exclusively on short grass, and they only dine at night. They're creatures of habit, and most of the time visit the same feeding grounds. These are sometimes called hippo lawns, because the giant grazers use their wide lips to crop the grass close to the ground, keeping it well trimmed. Hippos consume about 50 kilograms of food in a sitting, which is only 1% of their body weight. Although they are social by day, at night they prefer to eat alone. Because of their immense size, adults have no natural predators and are safe by themselves. After 5 hours of foraging, they return to the water before sunrise. Mornings are a time to snooze and rest from the night on land. only the youngsters are energized. All the aggression from the older bulls has inspired them to do some wrestling of their own. But their match is just a warm-up for the main event. The wrestling bulls from yesterday are ready for round 2. They make their intentions clear by executing elaborate yawns that show off their long teeth and huge jaws. Neither bull is put off by the other's display. And it quickly gets physical. The bigger bull bears down with his immense bulk. An adult male hippo weighs 3,200 kilograms, more than 5 times heavier than the biggest crocs in a lake. But the younger opponent is no pushover. His desire for control of the harem has pushed him to a point where there is no turning back. He must win the fight or be driven out. It won't be easy. Scars on the flank of the dominant bull are evidence of his past battles. The older male uses experience and timing to his advantage. Rising higher out of the water and pushing down to gain the upper hand. It's enough for the win this time. Victory has solidified the dominant bull's position as leader. He has proved himself superior and vindicated his right to mate with any of the females in the harem. The loser will no longer be tolerated. Now he's relegated to a solitary existence as a lone bull, until he's worked up the courage to challenge again. With the battle won, the big bull turns his attention to a cow in estrus. Hippo mating is a mysterious affair, as most of the time it takes place unseen. Only the male is visible. The female stays under the surface of the water, coming up for air only when she's out of breath. For the big bull, passing on his genes is a hard-won right. He's the master of this stretch of lake, and there is no animal, hippo or otherwise, that can dispute his dominance. Pelicans are some of the biggest birds in Ndumo and flock to the lake following the rains. They're expert fishermen, using their specialized bills and wide gullets to sweep up fish from the water. Today, the flock is after the catfish that thrive on the lake's muddy bottom. But the catfish are too quick and clever to simply be scooped up. Luckily, the pelicans are team players. They make large circular formations to push the fish together. Now they need to corral the catfish into the shallows and cut off their escape route into deeper water. But it's not as easy as it sounds. Catfish are slippery characters. The pelicans just can't seem to keep the fish to the shallows. And time and again, they need to regroup. Like so many fishing trips, patience is required. Finally, perseverance pays off, for some. One lucky pelican hits the mark. Even if the meal takes a bit of extra effort to get down. Unlike the pelicans, the African fish eagle prefers to hunt alone. This adult bird is easily recognizable by its white head and brown body. Strikingly similar in appearance to the American bald eagle. Juvenile fish eagles like this one live nomadic lives, leaving the place of their birth once they've learned to fend for themselves. From an early age, they demonstrate extensive fishing prowess and are able to carry off fish as heavy as 3 kilograms. When this bird is fully mature, it will have to find a territory of its own, and ultimately a mate, who it will stay with for life. While the eagles of Ndumo must settle for fish, the crocs have had an unexpected and rather rich deposit of luck. The flood carried a feast with it. Zebra meat should be an excellent meal for the carnivorous crocs. But the scaly beasts are seemingly fussy eaters. Crocs don't have flesh-cutting teeth like those of predatory cats, so they often wait for the meat to soften so that they can tear off chunks. It's an approach that takes patience, and the crocs have plenty of that. Overnight, the crocs have started to feed, ripping big pieces off the carcass. Now they need to tear them up into bits small enough to swallow. For this, they use a ferocious technique. By rising into the air and giving a quick whipping thrash, the crocs are able to tear the meat up, swallowing the smaller pieces whole. It's an indication of the power behind their big heads and long snouts. There's plenty of meat for second helpings. This will be their last big meal for a while. Crocodiles need heat to digest their food, so they fast through the cooler winter months. If they eat too much now, as autumn approaches, they may not get enough warmth to digest the meat, which could go rancid in their stomachs, poisoning them. They need to consume just enough to keep them sustained through the cold months. Even for these animals of ancient design, portion control matters. For the two African heavyweights, life is dictated by the ebb and flow of water. Both species have evolved vastly different ways to live in their ever-changing worlds. Still, seasonal cycles govern their very existence. The story of the crocs and hippos of Ndumo reminds us that life is never easy. But in times of hardship, perseverance will prevail.